Okay, so we're going to get started. Um, my name is Melinda Ganellis. This year, I'm the nonprofit advisor chair of that committee, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a few minutes. And with me,
I'm Carol Pucci, one of the vice presidents of nonprofit relations. I have a co-chair this year, Becky Silverstein, giving a shout out to her. Good morning.
okay, so you want to go to the next slide? So we have a rather extensive slide presentation for you all this morning. I wanted to start by saying thank you for joining us. And hold on one second. We are having some technical issues here. I apologize.
Oh boy,
What's happening here?
give us a minute.
I don't know what's going on here. This is very frustrating.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to here. No, my screen. Hold on, I'm gonna. This is what's frustrating me right here. I apologize. Just give us 1 second,
One
and
second.
we will share.
We'll share
this.
Okay.
There we go. Okay. Now we're able to. Okay. All right. I apologize.
right,
And now we're
yay.
ready to start as we're perspiring over here. I wanted to welcome you all coming this morning, and thank you all for coming this morning. You will see that along the process, if you decide to apply, that we will have a lot of information available to you, and this is just the beginning. So who are we? Impact100 Westchester is a 501c3 women's collective giving organization. And we'll discuss this a little bit in more detail moving forward, but basically we ask each of our members to contribute the same amount, which is $1,150, 1,000 of which will go to our grant fund and will be reallocated back to the community, and 150 of that donation is used to support our operational expenses. And although we're 100% volunteer led and managed, we still have some operational costs, which I'm sure you can all relate to. But that's our structure, our financial structure. We are members of various organizations throughout Westchester, so we can stay in touch with the nonprofit community, and we're always looking to expand our reach. Our mission is a little bit of a balancing act. So our primary goal every year is to award grants to Westchester-based nonprofits or those that are serving Westchester residents. The balancing act comes in that the amount that we can award is based on our number of members. So we do spend a significant amount of our time trying to attract and retain members. We do that by organizing a lot of events. Some of them are educational events, some of them are volunteer service events. We even do visits with several nonprofits within the Westchester community. And our goal is to hopefully convince women to join Impact 100 and contribute to our grant fund. So as I stated earlier, here is our model. Every year we have a membership drive, and the number of our members determines the number or the amount of funds that we can give out in that given year. Our membership drive ends in mid-January. And our last year we had 240 members. And what we realized, our membership are made up of women that are passionate about the belief that collectively we can do more and give more than any one of us can give individually. So, and that's a sentiment throughout all of our membership. We have been really working hard towards increasing the diversity of our members. And a recent trend has been several women who work in the nonprofit sector. So we have several EDs, several board members, and several people who work hands-on in the nonprofits. So it's going to be my one and only plug to this particular population, that if you have employees, or if you yourself or board members that you think would be interested in joining Impact 100, we would love to have them. The amount of added input and insight that they give to our conversations, it's invaluable. So we're always looking for that particular population to join our membership. I think the next slide is you. Yep.
Thank you. As Melinda said, we are a volunteer-led organization, and all of us are really committed to trying to help provide transformational experiences for our nonprofits. So the types of grants that we award basically come into three main categories. Transformational project grants, and these are our larger amounts and clearly have the power to dramatically address unmet needs in our community. We then basically have core mission grants, and these cannot be applied for directly. They are smaller and unrestricted grants. And generally, the way our process works is finalists that make it till the end of our cycle, when our transformational project grants winners are awarded, basically the runner-ups become the core mission grant recipients. So you cannot apply for those directly. A couple of years ago, many people in our membership were really, once they become involved in understanding the needs throughout Westchester County, we're always looking for ways to expand our own reach. And with that said, our membership, provided a lot of feedback that we wanted to provide grants to smaller organizations. So we started the Impact Boost Award, which is a separate process, but is designed for smaller nonprofits with revenue less than $250,000 annually. This information around how to apply for that type of grant is distributed will be distributed in early January. It is a much simpler application, a much simpler process that starts in February of 2026. So please, check out our website. There will be additional information that we'll provide specifically about Boost. Thank you. So a little bit about our history. 2026 is going to mark our 13th grant cycle. So since 2014, we've awarded 105 grants and over $3.2 million throughout Westchester County. In 2025, we awarded 2 transformational project grants of $85,000 each, 2 core mission grants of $27,000 each, and 4 Impact Boost Awards totaling $20,000. Recently added, I think it was last grant cycle, we've also added basically small awards for those finalists who made it to, not finalists, the nonprofits that were selected to make it to the site visit process, because we recognize there's a lot of work involved in preparing for that. So those nonprofits also received a site visit award, and those totaled $8,000. In 2024, in a similar way, we awarded 2 transformational project grants of $85,000, 2 core mission grants of $27,000, and the same $20,000 for Boost Awards and site visit awards totaling $10,000. Thank you. So, as Melinda, discussed, we announced our transformational project grant amount once our membership cycle closes and once we know exactly how many members have joined for this current cycle. So if we meet our 2026 membership goals, we are expecting to award 2 transformational project grants in the range of $50,000 to $85,000, 3 core mission grants in the range of $20,000 to $30,000. These will be awarded to the 3 finalists who did not receive the transformational project grant. 4 site visit awards ranging from $1,500 to $3,000, and either 3 or 4 Impact Boost Awards ranging between $3,000 and $5,000. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but this is just to give those of you who maybe haven't applied or are considering what type of project to potentially apply for. Just this gives you an idea of the types of projects that nonprofits have been awarded transformational project grants for. We've had capital projects, we've had program expansions, we've had brand new programs. So you kind of look in the last couple of years, they generally fall into those 3 categories. I know Melinda will talk about this later, but definitely giving sort of a plug. We do a session where you can sign up and kind of discuss with very experienced Impact 100 members the projects you're considering, and we can provide you some feedback on the type of project, how we think it's going to be received by our membership. But I'll let Melinda get to that later. So let's talk about our grant cycle, calendar, eligibility, evaluation, and our process. Okay. Lots of dates here. So I'm going to keep it pretty high level because obviously all of this information is on our website. I highly encourage you to spend some time. We've put a lot of thought and work into creating resources for potential, grant applications for nonprofits that are interested in our process. So there is a lot of information on our website for you. But at a high level, we use Slide Room. For those of you who have gone through our process before, you know what that is. That's our online grant application portal. That opens November 10th. And as I sort of briefly mentioned, December 8th and December 10th, we have project pitch workshops. Those are the workshops that you can sign up. They're pretty quick. I think, what are they, 20 minutes?
25 minutes.
25 minutes where you'll actually have the opportunity to speak with members from Impact 100 who have a lot of experience with our process, who can give you some feedback. So I highly encourage you to check out the emails and sign up for that if you're interested in getting some feedback before you apply. December 16th, we have a grant writer Zoom. We partner with a grant writer in the community who does provide a workshop for nonprofits that are interested in applying for the Impact 100 grant. We do not participate in that process. So that's a great opportunity for you to work with this grant writer who has a lot of experience with our process, and you can ask questions without worrying about us being in the room, I guess. That's probably the best way of saying it. As Melinda mentioned, our membership drive will be completed mid-January. So we wait until our membership drive closes, so we know exactly how many members have joined, and then we make our announcement on January 12th with respect to what our transformational project grants will be for this year. So between January 12th and January 23rd, I mean, most people will have started filling out the application sooner, but for some nonprofits, they might wait to see what the amount is. So that will be on the 12th, and you have until the 23rd, so January 23rd of 2026 to submit your application. I'm not going to go through too many of the remainder of the dates. Those at this point of our cycle are the key ones for you to know about. Once you're in our process, there's a lot of information if you're making it to the subsequent rounds, and that's what many of these dates are. And the other thing that I'll highlight is that June 9th is our annual meeting, and that's the meeting where our membership comes together, all the nonprofits who have made it to the finalist round come together, and that's kind of the culmination of our cycle. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about eligibility. What do you need in order to be eligible to apply for one of our grants? Obviously, you need to be a tax-exempt 501c3, operating or proposing to operate programs for the benefit of Westchester residents and communities, operating for at least 36 months prior to applying for a grant, 2 years of CPA audited or reviewed financial statements, and you can't be a town or a village. Revenues between $250,000 and $30 million, excluding Medicaid and Medicare reimbursements. And previous transformational grant recipients may reapply if your project is complete, 100% of the grant funds have been received, and all required reporting has been submitted to Impact 100 Westchester. So there is an asterisk here that says we will review other government funds on a case-by-case basis. The thing that I'd like to point out is that if you have any questions about eligibility, please email us because we're here to answer any questions. Historically, we have jumped on Zoom calls to On some organizations have complicated financial reporting, some organizations are divisions, some organizations have, you know, revenues exceeding a certain amount. So if you have any questions about your own nonprofit, and if you have any kind of different eligibility stuff, please reach out and we'll go through at the end of this all the emails because we are here to answer your questions. So project and program eligibility, your project or program obviously needs to serve residents of and expense funds in Westchester. And as I kind of touched on with that chart that we looked at, it can be for a new program, it can be an expansion of an existing program, or it can be a capital project. But we do not subsidize current operations. Again, any questions about what that means, reach out to us. Total project budget equal to or greater than the transformational project grant amount. So, a complicated sentence. Basically, what that means is when we announce on January 12th what our grant amount will be, and let's use as an example, like it was last year, that it was $85,000, then the project application that you submit, the project proposal you submit to us, needs to at least be equal to $85,000. It can be more, but it needs to at least equal that. Melinda's going to spend a little bit of time talking about that in a bit, but that's the most important thing to point out. The funds need to be expended within 18 months of the initial grant installment. And operating expenses, referred to as core operating expenses on our application and on our budget project worksheet, cannot exceed 30% of the project grant amount. Okay, so just some high level, kind of how our membership goes about evaluating the grants that are submitted to us. We've tried every year, we try to think about how do we make this process a bit simpler, both for our membership and both for the nonprofits that are applying. And we try to keep our criteria as high level as possible because we understand in our community there is such a range of needs and services and programs that we don't want to be too limiting in how we approach this. But at a really high level, our membership is looking at how transformational is the proposal that has been submitted to us. What kind of difference is it going to make in our community? How does it address an unmet need? We also look at impact. I mean, clearly that's kind of what we're hoping we're providing in our community. So how impactful, how deep, broad, or both? Who does the proposal serve? What is the size of the population? And then obviously, one of the things that we're always looking to evaluate is implementation and assessment. How likely is the nonprofit going to be successful in its ability to actually implement the program as described? So these are just really high level criteria, but something for you to keep in mind as you're drafting your proposals. Okay, so things we do not fund. Anything that's partisan, religious based, anything political, or in support of any political party. Anything that's really a loan or debt reduction for the nonprofit, any interim or bridge financing, anything that's exclusively operating funds, any endowments, research, projects benefiting a for-profit organization, private foundation, or individual, and or general capital campaigns or fund drives. So basically, please ensure that none of the activities in your proposed project or program incorporate these items. And again, any questions, reach out to us. Okay, I'll go through this pretty quickly because obviously this is all in our application as well. The documents that you need in order to apply, you have to have your 501c3 letter that you upload as a part of the application process. Your most recently filed IRS Form 990 with whatever the supporting schedules are. Our project budget worksheet, which we will spend a bit of time in a bit. Melinda will go through in detail. Your current fiscal year operating budget, last fiscal year's operating budget versus actual, and audited or reviewed financial statements for the last 2 years, including CPA audited, reviewed, and the accountant's report.
Will you do this now? Scroll. So as Carol mentioned earlier, we use Slide Room, and that's our online grant application portal. Um, you will have access to everything that we're discussing today, and that's on these slides. On our website, on our menu, it will state apply for a grant. Underneath that, grant application resources. And then underneath that, all of the resources and documents that we have been talking about today and will continue to speak about moving forward. In order to access Slide Room, you go to our website, apply for a grant application resources, and then you hit grant application portal button, and that will take you to Slide Room. The one thing that I want to stress about Slide Room, first of all, their help option is very, very useful, and they are extremely responsive. You also have us, so you could always contact us. But the most important thing to remember is that when you're creating your application, when you're creating your account, oftentimes it just makes sense. When they say name, you may miss that it says organizational name, and you put in your name, the person who's actually completing the application. What happens though is that once you submit your application, there is no way of changing your name to the organization's name. So please make sure that you do not put your name, that you actually put your organization's name. And the reason why that is truly important is that when you get to the grant application, when you get to the grant committees, the grant review committees, the GRCs, rather than saying your organization's name again and again, they're saying the individual's name. And you're losing a lot of opportunity to have your nonprofit name out there. So please make sure you use your organization's name. So we've talked about the project budget worksheet. And this, if you've applied in the past, you will realize that this year's it's slightly different. We actually sent it out to other nonprofits that are not Westchester based or who do not serve Westchester residents, so they can test it for us. And then they gave us a lot of feedback on how to make it the most user-friendly possible. For the nonprofits in filling it out, but also for our members when reviewing it. So there will be some simple changes, but I think the largest of which is that in the past, if there was an error message, it was small and it was off to the corner. Now you can't miss it. It will be bright and it'll be red. It's not blinking and it doesn't make noises, but it's just short of that. So there's no missing that you have an error message. We cannot review applications if the project budget worksheet has an error. And when you've completed it, there will also be an equally bright and warm and welcoming green sign saying that you've completed it with zero errors.
Go to the next
Yeah,
slide.
let's go to the next slide. So our project budget worksheet is an Excel document which is available on our website. The same steps that you use to get to the Slide Room, then you'll see there'll be our project budget worksheet. We require that you use our Excel spreadsheet. Oftentimes you may be applying to several different grants, or for your internal uses, you have your own spreadsheets. It's impossible for us to review somebody else's worksheet. We want all of the nonprofits to be providing the same amount of information and present it to us in the exact same way. That also makes it easier for our membership. We'll discuss the review committees later, but it could be upward of 15, 16, 17 applications each grant review committee has to review. And it just makes the process that much more efficient if everyone's reviewing the same type of Excel spreadsheet. Our PBW, our project budget worksheet, has different categories of how we would like you to break down how much the project will cost and where the money will go to. So the next page. So you're going to see the next 3 slides have a lot of information, and I decided that the best way to present it would be to do 2 types of scenarios. So the first scenario is that your project budget worksheet is going to add up to our transformational grant award amount. So for this instance, we have $80,000. Again, we won't know that amount until our membership drive is over. So just for today's purposes, I'm using $80,000. So if you know, and the minimum that our total numbers need to add up to are $80,000. They can go larger than 80,000, and that'll be scenario 2. But for scenario 1, we want our project budget worksheet to add up to $80,000. So the first thing you do, you write your name of the organization. The second thing you do, you write the name of the project. The third thing you do is you scroll down to core operating expenses. So it's the second to last category that we have.
Says no explanation
It-
required.
so 30% of our award can be used for core operating expenses. Again, we're a 100% volunteer run and managed, and we have so many core operating expenses. So we totally appreciate how important it is for a nonprofit to have unrestricted funds in order just to keep the lights on, the doors open, the heat on. So you can take 30%, no explanation required, on the very last column for the amount of money that you are asking Impact to fund. Throw in $24,000 right there. Done. And then I would go to the other categories and backfill. Oftentimes we have nonprofits who will approach us and say, our project, let's say, costs $60,000, and we feel like we're not being genuine in filling the remaining 20,000. That's no longer the case. Do the 30% of core operating expenses and then backfill. So scenario 1 is you have to make sure that the total, the very last column, equals $80,000. Scenario 2 is that you know that your project costs more than $80,000. So now the second to last column needs to also be filled out. And so what is the total amount of the project? And then of the total amount, so let's say it's a construction project, and the total part allocated towards facilities construction and renovation, let's say it's $100,000. But you are only asking that the impact award cover $20,000 of it. So the first column will have 100,000. The second column would have the 20, the amount you're asking Impact to fund. And then we would ask you to describe how you would expect the impact funds, how it will be used in that allocation. So again, you don't have to explain the total cost. You just have to explain in all of these categories how you expect to use the impact award. So when you get to the bottom, the second to last column should total the total amount of the project cost, but the last column should only total the amount awarded by impact. So in this scenario, it would be $80,000. And if that $80,000 doesn't come out, you'll have a big, glaring, bright red error message. So I know it's a lot. You will have the opportunity to speak to Carol, and she has a team of women who could help you through if you're having issues with this. And the next 2 slides, I giggle because the next 2 slides have every detailed explanation and instruction. And it is a lot, but it's very, very helpful.
Yes.
I'm not going to go through each and every one, but you will see when you're done, the green writing, the green font will say, congratulations, your PBW is error-free. Once that you get that green message, please save your file, and then that worksheet will be uploaded into SlideRoom. And when you get into SlideRoom, you'll see the area where it needs to be uploaded. Again, work on it on your own, on your laptop, until it's error-free, and then you can upload it to SlideRoom.
And just to add to what Melinda said, if you're experiencing any error messages that you can't figure out, please email us. You know, we are here to help you through the process. We are here to help you, since this is a spreadsheet that we're asking you to submit. And if there's any error messages, as we say here, which are inexplicable, which I find very funny, that word, but or if you've used the sheet too often and you've gotten stuck in a loop, please just reach out to us. It's much easier for us to work with you before your application is submitted. Once it's submitted, there is a more complicated process for us to unsubmit, for you to fix things. So we are here to help you throughout the process.
Yes. Um,
Okay.
so how does it work? So as of November 10th, you can go through our website and you can start creating your account in Slideroom, and you can see the questions, the type of questions, and the format in which we would like you to answer the questions, and review the application. You can start filling it in. Um, However, the grant award amount will not be announced until January 12th. And you'll see in the project budget worksheet where we had $80,000, that's going to be filled by us. So whatever the grant amount is will be filled in by us. We're returning to that practice, and it'll be a locked cell, so it can't be changed. Some of the errors occurred when we had that cell unlocked. Now it'll be locked, filled in by us. You'll know the grant award amount, and then you can finalize your application. And there are aspects of the application you could fill out before the grant award is announced. You could fill out your mission, you could fill out your project idea, you could fill out, we ask information about your board, we ask the financials that you have can be uploaded. So there's a lot that can be filled out. And then from January 12th till January 23rd, when the application is due in Slideroom, you could focus, if you want, that time on completing your project budget worksheet. Once everything is submitted, you'll receive a confirmation email saying that your application has been submitted. So then, all applications are first, we have an executive board and some other members of like the financial committee and some other members of our more senior Impact 100 members that will review your applications, make sure that everything is in order. We have a program which allows us to distribute the applications to our grant review committees. This year we'll be having 5. And what we want to make sure is that every grant review committee has an assortment of applications to review, an assortment of nonprofits in size, the population that they're serving, the location that they're serving, the types of projects, so that our members have the opportunity to review a wide assortment of applications, but also so that our applicants we don't have several dealing with hunger insecurity competing with each other in one grant review committee. So once we have all of the applications distributed to our 5 grant review committees, our members then review your grant applications. And last year we only had 4 grant review committees, and we had upwards of 15 applications each. This year, we're hoping that each committee will have anywhere from 8 to 12 applications to review. They'll go over all of your information, all of your financials. We have a specific member of each grant review committee whose sole purpose is to review your financials to make sure that everything is in order, to do a viability test, and then they report back to their members of their grant review committee. That grant review committee will then narrow down from, if it's 12, they'll narrow it down to a smaller group and decide and invite nonprofits to the next stage. By February 27th, you receive an update of whether or not you're moving on to the next stage. If you're not moving on to the next stage, you'll also have an opportunity, if you want, to ask for feedback. What happened? Why didn't I not get moved up? Was there whatever the questions are? You'll have an opportunity to hear back from us, which we understand that not many grantors allow that opportunity for feedback along the way if you're not moving forward. And we're going to say it again and again. We're with you every step of the way. Even if you don't move forward, we're with you too to help you understand why that happened, and so please reapply again the following year. So once all the members review the applications, there are always questions that arise. I've been part of Impact 100 for 13 years now, and there's some things that are just intuitive to me, just because I've been doing it for so long, which I'm sure is also the case of anyone filling out an application. So you may be writing in your lingo and things that are just so incredibly obvious to you, but may not be obvious to someone who's not involved in your sector that you're serving. So there are always going to be questions. Can you please elaborate on this? We didn't understand this. What do these terms mean? Especially if you're using a lot of abbreviations. And so by March 2nd, follow-up questions will be sent to you. And there may be one follow-up question or there may be several. And so they'll be sent to you on March 2nd, and we ask you to email it back to your nonprofit advisor by March 9th. At which time our grant review committee will review those responses. And in the past, what we used to do was go back and forth with a ton of emails. We still didn't understand this. Can you clarify this point? Oh, now we have an additional question. And the emails there were just so many. It took so much time. It often created a lot of frustration on both ends. So we decided to just get away from that and have a very informal discussion. Here it says virtual interview, but it's just a very, very informal discussion to go over the first stage, any questions that might come up, any clarifications that we need. These discussions should not take any more than 15 minutes. Oftentimes they take as little as 7 minutes. They're recorded so that our review members, our grant review members can see them. They're not all on it. It's with your grant review co-chairs, your nonprofit advisor, maybe the finance person, depending if the questions are financially related. Extremely informal, very easy, but it also allows us to put a name to the face. So that's relatively new, and we've both membership and nonprofits really appreciate that step. So once we review those interviews and we have all of our questions answered and we have a firmer grasp of your application, then a smaller subset are invited to do a virtual site visit. And this will, you will, when so virtual site visits, the invitation will be on April 17th. And the site visits will take place through April 27th to May 6th. From April 20th to the 24th, you have an opportunity to meet virtually with your nonprofit advisors. You'll be assigned 2 women who will serve as your coach throughout this process, and you can meet with them and they can help you walk you through what would be a very productive site visit for our membership. We are fully aware that our membership is a unique group of women, and what may work on one grant application may not necessarily speak to our membership. And so your nonprofit advisors are there to help you understand how best to present yourself to our membership. The training is optional. It's highly recommended, but it's absolutely optional. And as I said, the site visits will take place on April 27th through May 6th. Please try to keep that time frame open. We will work with you on finding a time frame that works for our grant review co-chairs, our nonprofit advisor, and you as well, but we try to keep it all within that time period. Anyone who's invited to the site visit round, you will be awarded a grant. We understand that there's a lot of steps, and we appreciate you applying and taking the time to apply and to appease our membership. So if you make it this far, you are guaranteed an award. And again, that award amount is determined based on our membership drive. And then back to Carol.
Okay. Okay, so stage 4, I can't believe we're on stage 4. I'll make this quick. Our application process is selection of our finalists and our annual meeting. So one finalist, as Melinda has been mentioning, we have grant review committees, and the culmination of our process is that each grant review committee puts forward one finalist. Those individual nonprofits will be notified on May 15th. And then basically our annual meeting will take place on June 9th. So between May 15th and June 9th, that is when we will work with those nonprofits to get them ready for our annual meeting, to make sure that we have their presentation. Each finalist at our actual annual meeting makes a very short presentation. And clearly we're not going to get into that now, because if you make it to the finalist round, we have a process that we go through and we provide guidelines, et cetera, et cetera. But basically, Impact 100 members vote live in the room based on the presentations, and that's how we award our 2 transformational project grants and our core mission grants. Sort of our model is, we're all one woman, one vote. So all of our voting is always done anonymously. And those of us that have voting rights, take this process very seriously to make sure that we're really listening, watching all the information, watching all the site visits, so that we can make an informed decision when we vote. Um, and so payment of our grant awards. So for those finalists who have made it through, either you're going to end up with a transformational project grant or a core mission grant. The core mission grants are relatively simple. Those get paid out sort of pretty directly after our annual meeting. Those funds can be spent in any manner. Because basically they're really being awarded to support the core mission of the organization. Our transformational project grant winners, there is a more substantive process that happens in that they will then work with a specific committee within Impact 100 to actually sign a grant agreement that has some pretty specific details and terms around the grant and how it will be awarded and the milestones that need to be met in order for us to distribute the funds. So anything else on that, you think? Okay. Yeah. Okay, so before you apply, so again, check our website because it has all of the information. It has the grant calendar that I went through. The things for you to remember are grant applications are due January 23rd. Our amount will be announced January 12th, but Slide Room does open November 10th for you to start working. And as Melinda mentioned, uploading all the information that you might already have, and you can start to work on this. A question that might come up, and I'm asking Melinda live, if you've applied in the past, in Slide Room, are you creating a new account, or are you like, as if your nonprofit has applied for the last couple of years or last year, are you creating another Slide Room account or are you using the old one that you used last
That's a
year?
great question. If you applied it in the past, your account is still there. If you've forgotten your password, unfortunately, we cannot help you with that. But if you request through Slide Room forgot password, they will get back to you. It usually takes them about 24 hours. They'll go back to you to reset the password. So actually, that's a really great question, because if you wait to the last minute and you need your password reset, and Slide Room, again, they usually take 24 hours. It might be a little bit longer. So I would go in as early as possible and make sure you have your account set up and your password set up.
Yeah, thank you. Good point. All right, helpful hints. So again, please read through all the eligibility guidelines. And as I've mentioned several times now, if you have any questions or if there's anything unique about your organization that you'd really just like to bounce off with us before you go through this process, feel free to reach out. And all questions you can email to grants@impact100westchester.org. I will say that again. It's grants@impact100westchester.org. That email is monitored by several of us, and we really endeavor to get back to all nonprofits within 24 to 48 hours, so that we can answer your questions, provide you the support that you might need. And every once in a while, we get questions that we're a little stumped by as well. So those are the ones that we'll jump on a call with you and kind of work through it to ensure that we're on the same page. Again, we went through this project budget worksheet. There was a lot of numbers and a lot of details, but the big message is if you're still seeing error messages, please don't submit your project budget worksheet with your application. Reach out to us or fix it and make sure you get the smiley, happily, the happy green message, congratulations that it's error-free and now you can submit it. And then Melinda's going to talk about the nonprofit advisors.
So we've been mentioning the nonprofit advisors. I refer to them as coaches. So it's a group of women, many of which have sat on executive board, many past co-presidents, who genuinely understand our process and more importantly understand our membership and how to communicate to them. And so along the way, you will always have every nonprofit will have two nonprofit advisors assigned to it to help that nonprofit along the process. And it begins on our pitch day. So on December 8th and December 10th, we offer pitch days from the earliest 9 o'clock slots to 1 o'clock. They're 25-minute slots. You will meet with senior members of Impact 100 and give your elevator pitch. And you may have several project ideas, and they're there to listen to each of your ideas. You're not selling them. They have nonprofit advisors do not vote until the final to the actual final annual meeting. So along the process, you don't have to win them over. They are here solely
Right.
to serve you and help you along our process. So during the pitch days, you could give one idea, multiple ideas, and they will help you vet it. They'll help you grow it. They will, if you have any questions about our process, they'll walk you through it. And so it's just very, very informal, and we've had conversations about pretty much anything. And then once you decide that you want to apply, then after you submit your application and after the first stage, that's when you'll meet your nonprofit advisor. They will be the ones to send you the questions that were generated through the first grant review committee meeting. They will be emailing you those questions. You'll be emailing it back to them. They'll give you feedback of whether or not the questions were answered in the manner in which we were hoping to receive. They will help you schedule the informal discussion. They will help you with your site visit. They'll help you with scheduling your site visit dates. They'll help you in training for your site visit. And they will also be available to train you for if you make it to our annual meeting, they'll train you on that final step. They'll walk you through materials and ideas, and you can practice with them. And so they're there with you every step of the way. It's a great committee to be part of because you really do form a nice relationship with your nonprofit. In addition to our nonprofit advisors, Carol had mentioned this earlier, we work with grant professionals of Lower Hudson. So on Tuesday, December 16th at 8:30 a.m., Joanne Stewart has offered her services. She is very familiar with our application and our process, and she is there to help you how to best complete our application. Not everyone has a grant writer, and we 100% appreciate that. And that's not held against you. I want to stress that we make sure that all of our members who are reviewing the applications, we tell them constantly substance over form. Please don't hold it against any nonprofit because it wasn't done by a professional, but to somehow make you feel more confident in the process. If you're not a grant writer, Joanne is there for you, and she'll walk you through the process and best practices for our application on December 16th.
I'm going to look at the chat quickly. Okay, we have a couple of questions in the chat, so give us a second to read through them before we end the session.
Do you want to stop?
Okay.
You want to stop sharing? It doesn't matter.
We'll leave out the grants.
Okay.
Okay, we see you. We see you. Thank you. Thank you.
So the presentation will be available on our website under how to apply for a grant or apply for a grant, and then you follow the steps until you get to grant resources, and you will see the slide presentation there.
Yeah, it should take a couple of days, I assume, right?
The recording will take a couple of days. The actual slides will be there within the day.
Okay. Oh, yeah, and Noel said the presentation along with recording will be made available on our website on Monday, November the 3rd.
Okay.
Thank you, Noel. Project pitch workshops be as part of a group or individual?
They'll be individual, so it'd be 2 nonprofit advisors with 1 nonprofit. The nonprofit can invite another person, so there'll be 2 nonprofit representatives if you want, and then 2 nonprofit advisors for the full 25 minutes.
Okay, let's see. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. You as well. Can you both be a member of Impact and a grant applicant?
Yes.
Yes.
So Carol was the board chair of CRC, which won one of our transformational grants, and she sits on the EB. We both sit on several nonprofit boards. We ask you to fill out a conflict of interest statement, and we make sure that you are not on the committee of that would be reviewing your nonprofit.
Yeah.
If you're an employee of the nonprofit, then there's stricter criteria of whether or not you could participate in the process. But if you are a board member, absolutely, please join us, and it's a fun process. And again, having someone like Carol who actually applied and understood what it meant to the nonprofits to go through each step of the way, having her explain to the other members what that really entailed behind the scenes, it's so insightful. So please, board members, members of that work for nonprofits, please join our committees, and it makes for such a much richer conversation.
Yeah, and to add to that, as Melinda mentioned, availing yourself of the resources and getting feedback, even if, this isn't a year where your nonprofit advances. When I was involved in applying as a nonprofit board person, I think we applied 3 or 4 cycles, and every cycle we got feedback and we modified and we thought about what we were actually applying for. And, so from that perspective, the application and getting the feedback enabled us to fine tune in subsequent years. It was very, very helpful.
So we have a financial question. Yes, we do. We need either audited or reviewed CPA financials. Um, so that is a requirement. The 250,000 minimum revenue requirement, we do that on an average. So it's best if you're not, if one year you're below 250 and the other year you're above 250, just reach out to us, and before filling out the application. We don't want to waste your time in
Yeah.
filling out an application if you're not going to be eligible. But for the most part, we do it on average.
And I think just to add to that, generally speaking, this eligibility determination in a situation like this, where you might be above 250 or below 250, then we're going to help you to realize, is it a transformational project grant or boost? So we can help you decide which grant is the one that's applicable to your organization in this current year.
We had a question about if we can explain further what we mean by new program or expansion of an existing program. Um, we want you to apply. So we try to keep it as open and flexible as possible. A new program, basically, you have an idea that let's say you want to serve, you've always been serving adults and now you want to serve children. That could either go under a new program or it could go under as an expansion of an existing program. A clear example of an expansion of an existing program is that you currently serve, let's say, Lower Westchester, and now with these funds, you'll be able to serve mid to upper Westchester, or you'll be able to serve, you're currently serving 30 individuals, and now you'll be able to serve 50 individuals. So it's really, really flexible. And again, if you have any specific questions, reach out to us, and we'll be there to help you in how to phrase it, how to present it, so that it meets our eligibility. I think now we're over 3.2 million in only
Yeah.
13 years. You saw the 2 screens of all of our transformational project grant winners. We couldn't even include the number of people that we've given core mission grants to, and now with the Boost Awards. So we want to reach as many underserved populations as possible. So we are here for you. So please reach out to us with any specific examples.
And I think with this type of question around program expansion or existing, that's a perfect opportunity to sign up for one of the pitch days where you can get 20, 25 minutes to talk through, here are our programs, here's what we're thinking. We're thinking, would you consider this an expansion? Use the resources that we're providing, because it'll help you really clarify your thinking and make the process much simpler in terms of applying.
And you can sign up for our pitch days on our website. And if you've registered for this info session, you'll also get an email so that you can sign up for our pitch days. I think Those are all our questions.
I don't see any more.
Okay, so again, reach out to us at grants@impact100westchester.org with any further questions or anything specific to your organization. We hope that you'll apply. We find it very exciting reading about all of your ideas and your missions, and we're always inspired by you. And you have if you don't win an award, oftentimes you have members who fall in love with your nonprofit and donate individually. Both of us have become board members of several applicants. You just absolutely fall in love with the project idea, and whether they win the award or not, you want to be part of it. And so you have a huge population of women out there who want to be involved in nonprofits in Westchester. So please consider the application at the very least as a marketing tool. We do not charge.
We have one last question.
So so we have a question about operating budget and financial eligibility. I think it would be best for, I don't want to say the name out just in case, but reach out to us individually, and then we can walk through your finances with you specifically to see whether or not you're eligible for our transformational project grant. But at the very least, you would be available for our Boost Award, which is an entirely different process. It's a much simpler process, and it's also unrestricted. So even though the amount is less, it's a very quick turnover of whether or not you get a decent amount of money. So please reach out to us individually about that eligibility on your finances. Okay, so I think we are done.
Thank you, everyone. Good luck.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Yes, good luck. We hope to hear from you.
Yep.